The war in West Asia is now beginning to test regional alliances, and Pakistan may soon find itself drawn into the crisis. As the conflict between the United States, Israel and Iran, it escalates. Its shockwaves are now reaching the Gulf as well. Iran has launched drone and missile strikes targeting Saudi Arabia, among many other Gulf nations, with some attacks believed to have hit strategic sites in the kingdom, including energy facilities inside. The attacks have raised fresh concerns about regional stability and prompted urgent security talks between Riyadh and Islamabad. Now, the two nations, Pakistan and Saudi Arabia, they have a defense pact, which I'll come to in a bit. Saudi Arabia's defense minister, Prince Khalid bin Salman, met Pakistan's army chief, Field Marshal Asim Munir, to discuss the situation. Now, according to Saudi's Prince Khalid bin Salman's statement, the two leaders reviewed Iranian attacks on the kingdom and possible measures to halt them under the framework of their joint strategic defense agreement. And that states that an attack on one reckons a response from both nations. Well, the meeting is significant because of a strategic mutual defense pact, as I had mentioned earlier. This was signed in September just last year, very fresh, between Saudi Arabia and Pakistan. The agreement signed by Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and Pakistan Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, it states that an attack on one country can be treated as an attack on both. Now, this means that any major strike on Saudi territory could potentially trigger Pakistan's defense commitments. Pakistan has long maintained close military ties with Saudi Arabia, with Pakistani troops stationed in the kingdom for training and defense support. But direct involvement in a wider Middle East war would be complex for Islamabad, which is currently facing economic pressures and internal security challenges. And also, all the diplomatic statements that have come out from Pakistan so far, they have condemned the attacks on Iran. So now they are stuck between their pact with Saudi Arabia and their friendship with Iran. Still, Pakistan has already signaled that it is concerned. Foreign Minister of Pakistan, Ishaq Dar, has reportedly warned Iran against attacks on Saudi Arabia, saying such actions could force Islamabad to reassess its position if its defense obligations are triggered. All right, to discuss this further, I'm now being joined on the broadcast from London, Dr. Kadira Pithiagoda, geopolitics expert and Australian diplomat. Dr. Kadira, thank you so much for joining me here on the broadcast. Now, let me just go back to the happenings of today, because there is so much to unpack. Let's start somewhere. There was a statement that came in from the Iranian president. He said, okay, we apologize to our neighborly nations and our friendly nations. We should not have attacked them. Soon after that, and I'll quickly go over it, UAE has already been targeted with 16 ballistic missiles, over 120 drones. Iran has hit UAE's Al Dhafra airbase. This is as per reports. Jordan has accused Iran of directly targeting key installations. In the most recent, Saudi airbase has been struck with a missile. Where do you see this one going, and what do you read into that statement from the Iranian leadership?
Yeah, so first I should say I'm a former diplomat, not currently. I'm speaking on my own behalf. I think it's interesting. I think the Iranian leader's statement reflects where he sits on the political spectrum in Iran. He's a definite moderate, but given the assassination of the supreme leader, I think there will be a lot of voices within the remaining Iranian leadership to prosecute this war aggressively. So I think there might be a slight sort of difference in tone there. But also I think it's important to know what he specifically said, which was that there wouldn't be any attacks on the Gulf states unless their countries were used by the US to attack Iran. And so what I would presume is that the attacks that have happened since then have been after the US has in some way made use of these states' territories in their subsequent attacks on Iran.
So if I were to just take what you mentioned right now, understanding what Iran is saying, that if any base in any of the countries neighboring Iran, if those bases are used by American forces, then Iran stands clear to retaliate. That's how they're positioning it. We'll join it to the recent statement that has come in from the Iranian parliament speaker, Ghalibaf, who said that there will be no peace till American bases are there in the region. Does that signify, does that symbolize what Iran's posture is in this ongoing war, that they want these American bases out of the region? Is Iran gunning for that at this point?
Yes, I think Iran would envision success in this war as completely changing the geopolitical landscape of the Middle East and the Gulf region. They see this as the final war. So they don't want to risk being attacked in the future by the US and Israel. So they want to fundamentally weaken the United States' presence in the region. So I think that barrage of attacks early on the Gulf states, US bases, and other buildings that housed US personnel, I think that was combined then with this kind of good cop, bad cop routine where, he's saying that if you behave badly, this is how we're going to attack you, and we're showing you that we mean business. But if you do not attack us, if you don't allow the US to use your bases, the bases in your country to attack us, and you put pressure on the US to leave your countries, then there can be peace and there can be economic prosperity for you. And I think that's their major message there.
Dr. Kadira, Iran at this point, while they're still looking to hasten that process to have a new supreme leader in place, do you feel there can be any halt in hostilities at this point when there is no clear face to the Iranian side? Because even prior to this, and Donald Trump had mentioned this, that it's very difficult to negotiate with Iran because the supreme leader doesn't talk to the American leadership directly. Now there is no supreme leader. So are we looking at a war at least which will remain protracted till the time Iran elects or has a supreme leader in place who chooses to then speak to the American leadership?
I think that's likely, particularly in the sense that you've got the various factions within Iran that will be kind of negotiating who becomes the next supreme leader. And in that sense, that will then determine how the rest of this war goes. But I think from Donald Trump's perspective, the US perspective, I think they knew this would be the case when they killed the supreme leader and a lot of the other leadership. And I think Trump's goal in this was not to establish a clear grounds for peace, but rather to have justification to continue the war a bit longer, even though I think it's going to be a bit out of his control.
Out of his control is something that I'll peg on to at this point, Dr. Kadira, because at this point, Iran till now, most of the calls were taken by the supreme leader. One would assume usually when there's one decision maker, in the absence of one decision maker, when there is a council, there are chances of a lack of unity in terms of arriving at a decision, especially when the country is thrown into chaos in the midst of war with the kind of onslaught coming in from the Israeli and the American side. Is there anything that seems to be non-united in Iran's posture towards Israel and US till now? Because they're very clear. Even recently, just 30 minutes back, this was the statement came out from Iran's foreign minister that if Trump wants to escalate, then Tehran is prepared. There is nothing that is seeming as if they are unable to decide what they want to do here.
Yes, well, I think they had some very kind of strong systems in place for continuity, given the risk of decapitation has been quite high for some time. They know how this is how the US operates. So they would have known that they would be thrown into a military conflict at the same time as having their leadership attacked and potentially decimated. So they have systems in place. They have not only at the highest political levels, but even in terms of the military command structure, they have a lot of decentralized decision-making going on. So you will have various sections within the military which can operate completely independently. And I think all the decision making for this early stage of the war has actually already been done. So it doesn't matter what is actually said at the top, that these missiles will keep firing for a particular period.
Does that also indicate that Iran's strategy was absolutely clear because they're following what was already decided before it had even started?
Yes, and this is what they warned about multiple times. I mean, they warned about the Straits of Hormuz, they warned about the missile barrages, they warned about what would happen to the US bases in the Gulf states. And this is really them saying that, we've tried to negotiate and you tricked us multiple times, and this time we're going to change the fundamental characteristics of the region.
Dr. Kadira, how do you read into Trump's interpretation of that apology from the Iranian leadership, saying that Iran has now surrendered to the Gulf nations or to friendly and their neighboring nations?
Yes, I think you can't put too much weight on what Trump says. I mean, he seems to be a little bit off the leash in the sense that he'll just say one thing one day, another thing another day. I think really what we need to see is the United States' actions, and we're hearing from military commanders that some of this was actually unexpected, and they actually have faced some significant challenges on the battlefield. And you're even seeing things like tension between the CENTCOM commander and the commander of the Indo-Pacific region in terms of who wants more resources, because I think the CENTCOM is actually running out of resources and they're trying to draw some from the east. And then you've got the China-Taiwan issue, which could pop off at any time as well. So I think Trump's boasting doesn't actually bear much resemblance to reality.
The concerning part, Dr. Kadira, is that I've heard this from a lot of voices that we've interacted with who come on the broadcast with us, that let's not put too much weight on what the US president is saying. He's the US president even then, and that makes it all the more concerning, because in the middle of a war, if one is not to give too much weight to what he's saying, because the statements keep changing and the objectives have also been raised. I mean, the doubts on the objectives. Why is US even doing this? These are questions being raised inside US more than anywhere else in the world. This makes it all the more concerning. We'll need to wait and watch how this one goes, because they're saying 4 to 5 weeks, but 1 week in, there is nothing that seems to be suggesting an end to this anytime soon. Let's wait and watch. That was Dr. Kadira joining me from London.
Thank you.